Well, I'm a nurse. I'm a clinical care manager. And what that means is that I help patients manage their health holistically. So I focus on health conditions and how to treat them and how to prevent complications as much as possible. But also, I connect with other persons who help them with social issues like transportation to appointments or getting money to pay their rent, because as we know, if persons don't have those things in place, a lot of times their health needs could become secondary when they should be primary. They can choose between rent and medications or something else. So I help them manage their health holistically with a team, and I enjoy that quite a bit.
And how long did you say you've been doing that?
I've been doing that for 5 years, but I've been a nurse for 20 years.
Wow. And your
21st year.
Now, 20 years of nursing. During that 20 years, have you moved specialties or were you always doing the same?
I have quite a bit. I started in the hospital setting in what's known as medical surgical nursing. So that's a bit of everything. That's the foundation. The medical issues, the surgical issues, I did that on a typical hospital unit. And then I transitioned from that into what we call home health care or visiting nursing. So I would have my bag of goods and go home to home, up and downstairs, or whatever was available to see patients at home. I did that for a while, and honestly I got burnt out with that because it was very physically demanding. I covered a wide area, I wasn't driving, and then I would leave that and come home to do paperwork into the wee hours of the next morning. So it wasn't sustainable. And what I did, I actually transitioned into management after that time, still within visiting nursing, but now supervising other nurses and therapists as they went out. And I did that for some years as a coordinator, then as a manager, then as a director, and I kept rising pretty quickly until my health declined and I had to stop. And that's where I am today, a bit of a different pace and empowering other women so they don't cry.
Now, what was the moment where you said, I have to make a change and it's got to be drastic?
That was when I was what I thought was the top of my game, the top of the career ladder. I was a director and I really didn't want to go to the VP level. I was good. Where I was, the salary was good, the flexibility was good enough for me, so I thought. But I believe I internalized a lot of stress without really knowing it. I had a young family starting, 2 kids at the time, and all of a sudden I became very ill, had to be hospitalized, a range of symptoms all over my body, swelling, fluid accumulation, you name it. And the doctors didn't know what was going on. And once in that frame, in that time, I decided I had to make a change. And to be honest with you, I knew a change was coming. I didn't know it would come that quickly because a few months prior, I want to say, I had a feeling I need to leave here. I need to get out of here. And it wasn't for anything bad. I just knew I had made my contributions and I couldn't see how I could do better. So it was time for me to go and grow because that's who I am. But then my health said, it's going to be now, not later. So after 2 weeks of that saga, being in 2 different hospitals and having all the specialties take a look and really find nothing, I was thankfully discharged and was fortunate to be alive. And I spent several months at home just trying to mend. And honestly, I felt like a failure because here I was at the top doing my thing. Then all of a sudden, I was nowhere, right? At the bottom, maybe. And I really had to look and see how I defined myself, how I defined success, and not to be worried about what anyone else thought. Because if I couldn't sustain my health, it didn't matter what title I had, how much money I made, it was all going to be for nothing. So I just decided to do what was going to work for me. It wasn't easy. I had to swallow a bit of pride, but I did what was going to work for me. I said, I'm going to work from home for a bit. That was the same year COVID hit, so working from home was preferred by all means. And yeah, I went into care management, and I don't regret it because I feel it hones all of my skills in terms of my desire to impart knowledge, teach, coach, as well as all of my experience in various aspects of healthcare, and helps me empower other people in a way that works for me as well and could be sustained. It's been 5 years, so it couldn't be that bad.
Good on you for doing something about it, because so many of us feel the stress and then put it off, and then something happens that forces you to deal with it. And then sometimes people recover and then go back to the situation because they just can't imagine their lives as different. They just can't imagine making the changes that are necessary. And it's not easy financially, or, as you said, your pride is wrapped up into what you do. And if you're not doing that, who are you? Who are you at the end of the day? Yes. So the reason I contacted you is because I saw a post on Facebook and it really spoke to me. And it was a post, maybe you could talk about that, the post that you made about not being able to get up out of bed in the morning.
That was that 2020 experience, the pain was severe. I've gone through labor, and it was right up there with labor pain.
Wow.
So and that gripped my tummy as I was trying to get out of bed that morning. I limped my way to the bathroom to do my thing, to get ready for work. And all through work, like, it would come and it would go, it would come and it would go, but work had to be done, right? This is the dedicated director here. I would spend a moment in the bathroom, come back, and by midday, I realized I couldn't sustain that. This is not going to work. I need to get to a hospital. And I did. And that's when all the workup started. They thought they had to do surgery, and then they canceled it. And it was back and forth. And I didn't want to acknowledge it or necessarily understand, but I had to face that something was seriously wrong. And thankfully, my village family, friends, they helped me to say, you really need to take a serious look at this. Part of that meant getting out of the hospital I was in. I never imagined that as a nurse I would sign out against medical advice. But after a few days of getting nowhere, I thought, okay, I need to go to where I'm sure I'll get better care. And there was a stark difference.
Wow.
Immediately. Talk about inequities in health. I experienced it, okay? I went out of one neighborhood and traveled some into another neighborhood, and the speed at which things were done and what was done in a very short time was remarkably different. And not that they had answers, but they worked every angle, As a nurse, I knew I was getting excellent care. And so, yes, that is what transformed my worldview a lot, to really realize that I had to take care of me. And we hear it and we say it, but sometimes not until we're at the bottom do we look up and kind of believe it, But yeah, that's when I realized I really, really had to make changes. What I was doing was not in my best interest long term, or even in my family's best interest. And you mentioned like financial sacrifice. Yeah, I made a big one, a huge one. More than 20%, I think, of my pay. I decided to hold on, right? Because of my health and so forth. And I know not everyone can do that realistically, at least not quickly, but I'm grateful I was able to. And what I work to do is to empower women in how to make self-care decisions that work for them now. today, each and every day. You know, every now and again we may get that trip to the spa or not, or we, you know, may go on some very, very relaxing experience, whatever that is for you. But, you know, each day you can make the decision to step away from your desk for 10 minutes or wherever your work area is. You know, you can make the decision to get some sunlight. You can make the decision to have breakfast when you may have wanted to skip it. You know, you can make a decision to really try to listen to your body and go to bed on time. And those little decisions add up. So that's my hope, my prayer.
Yes, speak it, you preach it. You're
What am I calling?
Yes. So what is it that you do now to help other women avoid what you experience? Yeah.
Yes. So I coach one-to-one, I coach in groups to help women manage stress and overwhelm so they can thrive in their work and in their relationships with clarity instead of burnout, right? And I do that holistically, starting with the mind and then continuing on, because a lot starts here. We don't realize when we're stressed, there's some negative stuff happening in our minds that we need to take charge of. We need to recognize it, first of all, so we could address it. And we need to reframe what we're going through in more positive terms. And we can do that in various ways, like really questioning our perspective. We may feel passionate about it, but it may not always be right. Right? We could reaffirm something positive and uplifting about ourselves or our situation, but we must be mindful about where we are and shift that to a more positive mode than not. And I also like to think of it as protecting our peace. Like, we have to do what we need to. It could be, again, stepping away for a moment. I have 3 kids at this point, right? Sometimes it means time out for me, like literally coming to my bedroom, closing the door. Mommy needs a moment, right? But you have to kind of be aware of where you are and be consciously checking in, as I think of it, to be able to say, okay, let's, you know, shift before this gets worse. And I also like to encourage people, this is about progress and not perfection. And that's from a natural perfectionist, okay? I want to dot the I's and cross the T's and have everything go right all the time, but life does not work that way. In spite of your most prepared plans and all your knowledge and everything, things happen and they throw you off for a moment, but you can learn to recover sooner than later, you know? So I help persons be mindful of their peace, their state of mind. I help them to prioritize based on what's key for their purpose at the moment. Purpose is a big word, right? In a sense, figuring it out. But what's your priority for the moment, for the season of your life? These few months, right? And then how could you set boundaries in place to say, okay, these are my priorities, but I'm getting pulled in this direction and that direction. How could I now say no, or maybe not yet, so that I can really do what I feel called to do right now, right? And another part of that is our identity, what I call amplifying your value, because a lot of times we don't feel empowered to make those decisions because we're not quite sure of ourselves. Maybe in our relationship dynamic with our spouses or with our bosses or some other figures of authority. We don't feel we can say, could I have an extension on that deadline or whatever it is, right? Because we're not sure that, you know, we're good enough or whatever it is. So I really help persons in a very simple way identify your strengths. Like, Nicole, if you were to put it in 3 words, what are 3 things that would describe your best self? Your 3 would be different from my 3, would be different from somebody else. But then how can you lean into that? Like in my moments, just personally, when I'm feeling not quite sure, I remind myself, you know, of who I am. you know, my best self. And I rise. You feel a surge within and realize, yeah, my feelings may not be quite great, but this is who I am. And that empowers you to be more confident and to ask for what you need, to communicate your concerns, you know, because a lot of times in stress we shut down.
Yes. Yeah.
And we give the cold shoulder or whatever, you know, and when we shut down, we're not getting our needs met either. We have to be able to communicate, even if it's to say, I need a moment.
Yes. Yes.
So we work through that. We work through other ways in which you can embrace self-care practically, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and mentally. And there's a lot in there. And just how you can practically organize your time, because face it, we all have 24 hours. Get more done than others, but we want to be able to maximize our time and still feel good about it at the end of the day. So I have a framework. I help people. I usually recommend start with some activity that refreshes you from early in the morning. For me, it's a devotional time, right? Yes, I have to get the kids out to school, but then I come back to that before I get into my work, you know, but is it something, some mindful practice that will put you in a good frame of mind instead of just being alarmed and you go out, you know, on adrenaline that crashes, right? And then people pace themselves to few breaks over the course of the day. Have a simple plan. I know we as women have a whole lot to do, but the reality is there are a few key things that we need to do and can do. There's only so much in the day. So we have to be able to be okay with leaving some things undone. And all the inner and outer pressures to finish them when we're not up to it, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yes.
And then, you know, how to continue to refresh ourselves over the course of the day, take our time off when we need to, you know, from work, that is, have some kind of longer vacation type plan each year. All of these things help. Get your annual physical in, get that stuff scheduled, you know, so that you stay on top of things and don't crash.
All very
You know.
practical things that can be not easily done, but if your focus is there, you will find opportunities to get it done. But as you said, mentally, you have to accept that there are limitations to your abilities. And then maybe, I don't know if you could speak to, I think part of the problem is the individualization of I must do this and I must do that, instead of relying on your community or reaching out to or creating that community of people who can help you or take on the responsibility of other things. So
that's how I end up too. That's how I wrap up, you know. You're good. You're in a good place mentally and physically and all of that. But that's literally the last part. Like, we have to embrace community.
Yes.
We have to be willing to delegate and engage others. And we have to have an active network, small or large, right, that we can reach out to, connect with people that lift us up, build us up, because there's community and there's community.
Right.
There's positive community, which is what we're talking about. It's understood, but not all relationships are uplifting and supportive, right? So how could we have more of those that are uplifting? You know, there are several. There are faith communities. That's a big part of my life. There are other mentoring and coaching communities. There are Facebook groups for specific interests and needs, but find communities that you could engage in, contribute to, as well as receive from.
Yes.
It must go both ways.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
And make sure they're in your real life, because online communities are great and they're very motivational and encouraging, but to me, not as enriching in those moments where you're just isn't it? As a person in your real life who you can say, I need to step away. Scotty, for 20 minutes, can you watch these kids? Or, you know, any practical real life thing that would lighten your load. Stuff to do. Yeah. That sounds amazing. So how would people reach you if they wanted to be coached by you?
Okay, a couple of ways. My website has a link that you can use to reach out to me. It's mysoulcaresuite.com, mysoulcaresuite.com, or on Facebook, Marise Deassou on Facebook.
Yes. I love what you're doing. I think that a lot of professionals and people who can help are available. It's just that we might not know they're there. So I'm trying to connect people with the people who can help them and might give them help that feels relevant and they make them feel understood. And you're located in the United States, right?
I am, but I, work with persons across the globe.
Yes, yeah. But just want to mention that in case somebody from the United States, because most of the people who come to my website are Americans by a lot. So most are seeing it from the United States. So maybe they're in your state and they'd be able to connect with you in person.
I'm based in New York.
Yes.
If you're in New York.
New York. Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you're out of that stressful situation and you made the change, even though it was difficult. I'm cheering you on because you're making an example not only for yourself, but the people in your family who are watching you, the people who you know, even me, a stranger on Facebook, reading your post and being able to relate immediately and knowing 5 other women who have had the same experience who could, tap into that. So what you're doing is important work. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.